Okay, welcome to another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. This week we're going to take a look at tactics, strategies, and realities for surviving a knife attack. Right? Take a look at 10 critical life-saving lessons from, obviously, Ninjutsu, right? Because that's what we're doing, for surviving against an attacker armed with a blade. But you know what? This is not just limited to Ninjutsu. Anyway, dai-shihan Miller here from Warrior Concepts, Black Belt and Life Mastery Academy, coming to you from Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, which, anyway, it up online. Anyway, all right, so 10 rules for surviving a knife attack. So we're just going to jump right into this. And the first one is the most critical. So let's do that first, right? As being critical goes, right? So number one, again, the absolute most important, there'll be most important ones later, but I know it seems kind of odd, right? But the first rule of surviving a knife attack is if you don't have to fight somebody who's armed with a knife, don't. Okay? So if you don't have to, I'm going to underline that, right? If you don't have to, don't. Okay? In our 8 phases of effective self-defense strategy, this framework that everything is based around, phase 6, right, is actually having to engage with an attacker. There's all kinds of things that come before it: de-escalation, distraction, those kind of things, escaping to safety, whatever. The reason why 6 is so far down, and people have a hard time getting their head wrapped around this. They have a hard time getting their head wrapped around that self-defense is not the same as fighting, even though some of the things that we might use to get this person off of us, to get out of there or whatever, might be the same, right? But this comes down to mentality, right? I'm not going through the phases and all that this time. That's for other lessons. But the reason that phase 6 and in physically engaging, right, unless this person is on you, it's a surprise attack, right, we're going to do everything we can to not get to phase 6, because in self-defense, self-protection, those kind of things, there's way more going on than just physical engagement, right? But the biggest reason, whether knives are involved or not, whether it could just be, you know, hand to hand, the reason why we avoid that at all costs is because there's the greatest chance of something going wrong. No matter how good we are, right? We could slip, we could roll an ankle, right? They could get a lucky shot in, and that sets up a chain reaction. There's all kinds of things, right? Not to mention the other 2 potential attackers that could be involved, right? For those of you who've been around for a while, you know what I'm talking about. So pardon this as I catch everybody else up. But in any kind of self-defense or physical attack in problem, right? We don't just have to deal with the attacker or attackers that are coming at us, right? So the other 2 attackers I'm talking about are not in that moment, right? Win, lose, draw, whatever. That's attacker 1, right? Attacker 2 is my own system could backfire on me, and so we've got PTSD, whatever, right? I need to get through this, recover as quickly as possible, and get back to life, because I don't know about you, but I have a family that depends on me, right? I run an academy. I have a workplace violence consultancy and whatnot. So I have people that depend on me, whether they're staff or whether they're students or their clients. They depend on me being functional, and I've got to get through that as quickly as possible, right? We'll talk about this later on as we move down the line, but this invincibility bullshit that people tend to get their head wrapped around, like, I'm going to learn this stuff and then I will be unbeatable. Shit, dude, you can be shot from across the street, right? There are terrorists in the world that blow up stuff, and if you happen to be near that and close enough, well, shit happens, right? So anyway, rule number 1, unbreakable, that kind of thing, is if you don't have to deal with a knife-wielding attacker, don't. However, if you are forced to, again, self-preservation, right? If I'm forced to, what I'm talking about are circumstances dictate the choice for me, right? Not my ego, right? And this is hard for these guys to get over, right? Because there's something that forces them into doing this thing, right? He called my mom a name. He challenged me, whatever. I had no choice. Okay? Based on your BS, right? Belief system, right? Okay, right? Whatever. But remember, going back to the attackers, attacker 1, the actual physical attacker of the moment. Attacker 2, my own system could backfire on me, okay? No matter how much experience I have, no matter whatever, right? And attacker number 3, never, ever, ever underestimate the legal system's ability to flip shit. And even if you acted in justifiable self-defense, somebody else having an agenda or certain witnesses being out to get you, mistranslated what they saw, heard, whatever, and shit is just going sideways, okay? So there's that, right? Okay, so again, if you don't have to, don't, all right? So if we're forced to, everything else proceeds from there, right? So I promised you 10, I've got 10 on here, but if there's time on the clock, I got a bonus to throw in there as well, and then this fits in with something else they're going to be taking a look at, okay? So rule number 2 or rule number 1, if you're actually in the situation, and some of these, right, don't literally go by the numbers. They could be switched around depending on where we are in a situation. But the point is, these are, the more of these that you keep in mind, the more of these that you integrate when you're training, and the more of these things that you're good at handling, and it becomes an operational process in the moment, the greater your chances, right? And who doesn't want to increase their odds, okay? I'm not a gambler. So one of the reasons why I don't play the lottery, because of the odds being against me. Same thing, right? And anybody that understands the difference between a sport contest or two guys slugging it out for the girl on Saturday night or whatever, the difference between that and literal Mortal Kombat, where there are no do-overs, right? That, what we're talking about here, shit gets messy fast, okay? And it doesn't take more than a quick Google search under images to look at pictures of people who have been attacked by a knife-wielding attacker, and the pictures are from the emergency room or something like that, right? Okay, that quick search, right? It gets messy quickly. All right. So again, if you're forced to, so this is either rule number 2 or we tip the line. That's what this line's for right here. Okay. If we find ourselves on the other side of that line, then adjust the numbers by 1, whatever. Okay. All right. So this is actually a question that is asked of my students prior to black belt, right? There's a question in their curriculum. As a matter of fact, it's in module 3, intermediate level 2, which we're about to relaunch. So if you're checking things out and you're following us online, the doors just opened for the relaunch of this program, which I just changed the name on. It's now called Dominate and Win. So it's about getting him first. It's about getting the hell in there, right? So, but the question that the students are asked is, what is the one thing that you can guarantee will happen if you are forced to defend yourself against a knife-wielding attacker? Okay. If it doesn't happen, you can count your blessings. But what is the one thing that you can guarantee? Okay. The one thing you can guarantee is you're going to get cut. You're going to get cut, stabbed, whatever. Okay. I had somebody call me on this. They posted in the comments, whatever, man, is like your catchphrase. If you don't want to hear it, listen to somebody else. Okay, I'm sure they've got a catchphrase too. Anyway, so you're going to get cut, you're going to get stabbed, whatever. Your job is not to not get cut. Your job is not to not get stabbed. Your job is to not have those things happen to the degree where the TV gets turned off. Okay, the controller goes to sleep temporarily or permanently. Okay, so and again, this points back to people get involved in self-defense training. They get involved in martial arts and whatnot, and this stated or implied belief slips in that by doing that and by learning this stuff, I'm going to be invincible. Okay? Not even close. Okay, warriors, soldiers, cops, whatever, die every day. Okay, so what we're doing is increasing our advantage, increasing our chances of survival, and this is a messy thing. Okay, all right. So number next, right? You don't have to win, okay? Just don't lose, okay? I'm just going to write, just don't lose. But this is not about the winning and losing kind of thing. This is a different way of thinking altogether, okay? I remember one time I was in Japan, and I was training with Nagata Sensei, one of the master teachers, who's now a soke. He's now, people use the term Grand Master, but that's not what that means. He's now head of the Gyoko school and one other lineage. But either way, we were in this class, and people are having their hell of a time getting their head wrapped around this idea, because again, see, fighter mentality brings in something else. It brings in a mentality that is about winning and losing. We're not talking about winning or losing. We're talking about survivability. Okay, so if I go back to that 8 phases of effective self-defense strategy, everything before phase 6, right? Remember, if you were on at the beginning of this, phase 6 is where you're actually physically having to deal with this person, right? But phases 2 through 5 are all about doing everything you can to not have to deal with it, right? Why not phase 1? Well, phase 1 is what we're doing now. Phase 1 is increasing our general awareness about the problem that we have to deal with. And we need to realize that self-defense, martial arts training, and all that, what we're looking at is learning solutions, or learning how to, on the fly, create a solution to a given problem. Okay, we're in a problem solution kind of paradigm, right? Warriors are problem solvers. Ninja are problem solvers. Okay, so if we have a battle, right, most people miss, and this is why what ends up happening is, no matter what he's doing, this guy is just throwing their thing. They're doing their style, they're doing their preferences, whatever. They're half-assed paying attention to what the other person is doing. And so it's a hope and a prayer. I heard a phrase not too long ago, and it was in the business world, but I just converted it, right? And so what we're talking about are one of warriors playing the game of hope. What do you call that? They're hopifying, right? Right. So they're just throwing a bunch of shit around, right? Well, let's see what happens. You can go see what happens, right? I know what happens if you make a mistake. If you make a mistake, your family better look good in black, right? We wear black in Ninjutsu. We wear black so our families don't have to. We study things much more deeply than other people do, so our families don't have to look good in black. Okay? Because if you screw this up, you screw up. This is not a sport match where you get to freaking talk smack. There's the possibility of getting maimed or crippled or dying or whatever, right? But there are all these rules. There's this, you're wrapped in cotton, right? To minimize that possibility. On the street, you're lucky if he only wanted to beat you up for bragging rights. Okay. So anyway, you don't have to win, just don't lose. Okay. If you can get yourself out of there, right? All of this right here is phases 2 through 5. Situational awareness, escaping to safety, distraction tactics, dissuasion tactics, right? All of that, both before that blue line, is everything I'm going to do to not have to face that knife. If I have to face the knife, there's some other things over here, right? There's a lot, okay? As a matter of fact, our Friday class, our Friday virtual training, there's the link down there. We're going to be spending time doing techniques and whatnot to handle this stuff down here, to apply these lessons specifically, and I'm going to get over here, right? Specifically to not let the TV get turned off, right? So, and again, that's what everybody signs up for, right? They want to know how to be invincible, right? So they want to spend all this time in here, right? But I challenge you to spend a whole lot of time in here, okay? So that you don't either make an assumption where you don't pay attention or whatever, and you find yourself here no matter what, or you just can't wait to jump in there and try out all your cool moves that you learned in your martial art, because I don't know, I'm a grandfather now, but when I was, younger and my kids were growing up and all that, right? The thought of having my kids call somebody else dad was a huge freaking motivator to not getting this wrong. Okay, so anyway, all right. So number next, right? So what are we looking at here? Okay, so you must neutralize his advantage. Okay, and here's the thing. My teacher, one of my teachers, asked this question a long time ago, and the question seemed rather simple, right? Why does an attacker, why does a bad guy brandish a weapon during the commission of a crime? Right? The answer is simple. Right? It gives them the advantage, whether it's fear factor. And I know a lot of people were mentioning fear and threats and all that kind of stuff, but it all comes down to it increases their advantage, right? So rule number one with our tactics, and if you can look at things, you can look at your techniques, your tactics, your strategies, and all that from the lens of how does this increase my advantage and decrease his? Instead of just looking at the moves, where's the control here, right? How does this increase mine? Not just because like I know this martial art and he doesn't, right? Not that, right? How does this move? How does this come on? This posture, this stance, whatever. How does this this type of blocking? How does this particular move at this particular time? How does that buy me an extra half a second of life? How does that diminish his advantage? How does that, right? Okay, it's a different way of thinking, right? It's not just moves for moves, okay? So you'd have to neutralize his advantage. Okay, neutralize his advantage. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to this here in a bit, but rule number 5 here is understanding how to control distance, right? There are 2 distances that we must get really, really good at especially when we're dealing with any weapon. I don't care if it's a fist or it's a knife or whatever, but we need to understand how that weapon works and where the advantages are. Okay, so the basic rule is be too close or too far. What the hell does that mean? Be too close or too far, in this case, to get cut. Okay, same thing goes for firearms. Be too close or too far to get shot, right? It's really difficult to be too far, okay? Especially if they were right on you or whatever, okay? Because firearms work better at greater distance, okay? Too close or too far. What we're really looking at here, and this is going to be a primary principle that we're dealing with in Friday's virtual class, is there is the range that most people think about is like a wall, okay? Except when you're talking about a knife, you're not talking about a wall, right? Well, the wall's not, it's not a 2-dimensional wall, right? It's not like a wall that's in the room where you are, where it's just straight, runs from corner to corner, right? The wall in a knife fight or in a knife attack is arced, okay? And it's arced, it's an arc because of the shoulder joint that the knife, that's on the knife wielding hand, right? So yes, it seems like a wall if he's doing this kind of stuff. But if I flank that to avoid, all he has to do is move here. So to do this properly, I need to understand the boundaries on an arc. Right? We're going to talk about that with this space and distance thing here in a minute, right? But I need to understand this because I can avoid the initial attack based on the wall theory, right? And win the battle. And all he has to do, this goes for swords, knives, whatever, all he has to do is go to that next point and it's a done deal. It's not like a hand where he throws a punch and he needs to retract and come in with the next one, or retract and throw the next one, or the same thing with a kick or whatever, right? All he has to do is redirect that blade. Just go from here to lateral. And so if you're in there, so you could have been too far off that initial thing, but based on the arc, be well inside that arc. Okay, so this takes your footwork, your tai sabaki, those kind of things, to a way higher level. Okay, all right. So too far or too close, too far. Number 6. Okay, I call this the zone. Right. I'm just going to write the zone rule because a lot of people that follow me, right, are not in ninjutsu, and this should be applied by. This can be applied by anybody. I wrote a book a bunch of years ago, and it's up on Amazon as a Kindle book. It's called Advanced Self-Defense Combat Tactics, And it's that framework, right? It's the five, well, it's not the 8 phase I was just talking about. It's the 5 phase framework that we have for when you're inside phase 6, you're dealing with stuff, right? So discern, defend, disrupt, deliver, discern. For those of you who know that, if you don't, there's go to the YouTube channel live tab, just go back through the Whiteboard Wednesdays, you will find the one where I cover that, okay? So for those of you in ninjutsu, for those of you in the Bujinkan, you might be familiar with a different word called kukan. Whoops, not kukan, kukan. Okay, kukan, space, right? The space of potential is how I define it, right? But the idea here is that there is a distance, right? Distance between he and I, okay? It doesn't matter if I have a knife. I'm going to use my marker here as a knife, right? He has a knife and whatnot, and people take up certain kamae because it's the official stance and whatever, right? The zone rule, the rule of the kukan is I don't put anything in this space between he and I that I'm not willing to give up for the rest of my life, okay? I don't put anything in there that I'm not willing to give up for the rest of my life, okay? So what this boils down to is, right, getting cut and getting stabbed. I already covered that. Where did I put that? You're going to get cut, you're going to get stabbed. Okay? Getting cut and getting stabbed is not problematic unless you're getting cut or stabbed in the worst places. Okay? And there are a couple of worst places, right? So these 5 critical areas that we protect. Okay? So you see these parentheses on here, and it's because there's a combination kind of thing, right? And I'm going to split out number 1 a little bit, but you'll understand what I mean, okay? So the first one is the neck. Don't get cut here. There's all these bundles in here, right? There's a carotid and a jugular vein and artery on each side, right? One feeds the brain, one pulls blood from the brain. If you open those things up, you leak out, brain doesn't get blood, right? The heart's still pumping this shit out, right? It's like Spider-Man squirter webs out of the side of your neck, okay? But that's not the only thing that's in there, right? Your vagus nerve, got one on each side coming out of your brain, down the side of your neck through this carotid pouch, under your clavicle, and then down the vagus nerves keep your heart beating, okay? They get severed, guess what? No signal. No signal, no heartbeat. No heartbeat, no blood pumping. Okay, you can figure that out, right? There's also the phrenic nerve, right? One on each side, comes out of your brain, down the side, onto the clavicles, down the torso, and plugs into your diaphragm. Keeps you breathing, keeps the diaphragm working. The diaphragm is what causes the inflation, exhalation, and stuff like that in your chest cavity. So that gets severed. No diaphragmatic action. No diaphragmatic action. Lungs are not expanding and deflating. No oxygen moves into the blood. But if the phrenic nerve got cut, 98.9% of the time, the vagus nerve got cut, so everything got shut down. Okay, so I protect the neck, but by extension, right? By extension, the center line. Okay, so when I say center line, I mean straight down through here. Okay, so obviously you don't want to be stabbed, right, in the heart, the aorta, that kind of stuff, okay? So by extension. But if I'm in a combat stance and I'm covering, I need to make sure that this stays safe, okay? He's got to get through things to get to those other things, but either way, center line. When we're doing defensive combat handgun training, and I'm teaching people how to shoot more effectively, I want at 21 feet, which is average combat distance in self-defense situations involving handguns. Inside that, it's the no sight rule because you don't have time to sight in. He's only 7 yards away from you, okay? At best. Outside of that, you got time for sights, okay? But I want a 4-inch shot group, and when we give people targets for the range, we give them a silhouette target, but then we also give them a backup target. I give them a U.S. legal piece of paper, which is 8.5 by 11 inches, right? Empirical. And then on that is printed a huge rectangle that is 4 inches by 11 inches. And that gets taped to the torso so that the top of that rectangular bar is right here and it descends down. That is a kill zone target. Any rounds that enter that 4-inch by 11-inch rectangle, shut the system down. Okay, it just disconnects something that's absolutely imperative. Heart, the brachia, the major brachii, right, that come off the trachea and stuff like that for the lungs. The spinal cord is behind that, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so again, primarily the neck, but by extension, the center line down to include the heart and the aorta. Okay, not that you want to get stabbed in the gut and all that, because that's a nasty death, but it'll take time. Okay, so again, knowing how the system is put together. All right, so neck is the only outstanding or whatever. Okay, so I put this in here just so I could write inside of and inside of. Okay, arms, specifically the upper arms. Okay, but the arms themselves, right, and inside of the legs. Why? Okay, because all of your life-sustaining tubing runs on the inside of your limbs. When you stand in Shizen, when you stand just straight, your limbs hang and position, right? It doesn't matter if it's legs or arms. So the inside is safe from bumping into the outside world. Okay, so you can have muscles cut out here, okay, and you're going to bleed, but you're not going to bleed out. It's going to take a long time. Okay, inside, you cut the vascular and the arterial system, you're just going to leak out. Okay, so the way the body is structured and put together, right, all the things that are life-sustaining or sensitive can be retracted, or a jaw or something heavy, right? But typically they hang, right, so that the body itself protects them. We bump into the world out here. Okay, so I don't want to be doing dumb stuff by exposing these to the access of the blade. Okay, so I want to protect my neck, again, by extension, center line. I want to protect the insides of the arms and the insides of the legs. Okay, so I don't want to be doing freaking dumbass kicks or whatever, where I'm initiating, because all he has to do by flinch or by design, stick that blade out there, you get cut and things go away, right? So this requires a whole lot more tactical and strategic thinking than just throwing a bunch of shit and hoping to keep him away from you, right? Because even a fending action on his part, right, covers against a punch that's coming in, and that blade is there, you cut yourself, okay, which is a huge tactic that we use. Let him cut himself, right, on the blade. You don't have to try to cut it. That's the cool thing about blades, and this is a secret within ninjutsu. You don't have to try to stab or cut somebody. It's the nature of the blade to stab or cut. You simply need to position it strategically so his body part will run into it or rub across it, and he will be stabbed or cut. Okay, so it's, again, this is not different techniques. It's not a different style. It's a different way of thinking. Okay, all right. So don't put anything inside the kukan that you're not willing to give up for the rest of your life. Okay, because you expose yourself, you expose these targets when you go on the attack, when you move in. A big strategy within ninjutsu is we don't try to deliver our techniques unless he can't stop it. What does that mean? Well, it means he's off balance, or he's busy avoiding something else. He's busy missing, those kind of things. He's tied up doing something else, and now we're clear to move in. This is not trading shots in a slugfest. Okay, I know people don't want to hear this because it takes too much, right? Sensei, just tell me where to put my damn foot and tell me what move to do next. Well, I can tell you, but based on context and a situation, that may be the dumbest technique that you could try because it's going to get you killed, right? Which is why we don't have favorites, right? Favorites get you killed, right? So zone rule, kukan, whatever you want to call it, don't put anything inside that bubble that you're not willing to give up for the rest of your life. And in the case of a knife attack, you put the wrong things in, your life won't last very long, okay? You get your femoral arteries cut right there. That's the artery that runs inside on both legs from the groin down, right? The femoral arteries are capable of expanding that together. They can hold all the blood in your body, right? This is where G suits come from, that jet pilots wear, They hit G-forces, right? They hit certain maneuvers, and all the blood rushes to their legs. They pass out, plane crashes, which is why several inventions came about. Autopilot, right? Pilot passes out, plane registers that it's out of control. It will normalize on a path and fly itself. Right now, I don't think they can land themselves, but either way, right? But the big thing that came out first were things called G suits. These pilots wear these suits that have these liquid-filled bands that go around their thighs, and they act like tourniquets. You hit a certain G-force or a certain maneuver, and that constricts and blocks off. It just literally cuts off all the blood circulation to the legs. But what it's designed to do is keep the blood up in the upper body so that you can stay conscious and your heart can continue to pump. Because if the blood pressure drops too much, your heart will just stop because it, anyway, okay? Gray's Anatomy, good ninja manual, okay? So, again, don't put anything out there that you're not willing to give up for the rest of your life. If you get your femoral artery cut, I don't care if it's at the ankle or the mid-thigh or whatever, you will bleed out before the call to 911 is completed. Okay? And if not, it's a slow leak. Good luck even still being around by the time the ambulance gets there. Okay, your heart doesn't need to pump it out. Gravity will pull it out. Okay, so this is, again, it's messy, right? All right, so let's see, where are we? Number 7. So KISS rule for all defensive tactics. Okay, the KISS rule for all defensive tactics. Keep it simple, shinobi. I know some of you thought I was going to say keep it simple, stupid. I would never call you stupid, right? Keep it simple, okay? We need to avoid, don't overcomplicate things. You need to keep this simple, right? The more flash, the more flair, the more style, whatever, right? The cycle's starting again because I got my grandson living with me. But when I had my kids younger and whatnot, Toy Story was a big thing, right? And anybody that's near my age knows with the Toy Story thing, right, that Buzz Lightyear thought he could fly, but Woody kept calling it, you're not flying, you're falling, right? At best, you're falling with style, and that became the thing, right? So you violate this rule, okay, and style's involved, you could be dying with style, okay? Hatsumi Sensei, my teacher, wrote an article a long time ago, and you can find it on the internet. Okay, pride goes before the fall. I highly recommend reading it. Okay, so KISS rule, right? Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Right? There's a rule in plumbing, right? The more complicated the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the pipes. More complicated your moves, right? The easier it is for him to just kind of stick something in the spokes of the tire that's going around, jam things up, and okay, it's kind of like with nunchucks, right? Everybody gets all cool about their cool moves. Okay, flick a quarter, flick a coin at that person doing it. Not going to take much to break that rhythm, and they're going to hit themselves with the nunchaku, right? And if you look at those patterns, okay, I'm really impressed by people who learn how to do that, just like I am with any other kind of juggler. Okay, but if you look at those patterns, the weapon is behind him at least 50% of the time. Okay, which means I have opportunities to come in. But when you do things like that, you're forced to go faster. But if you get injured, or again, I toss a coin at you and you flinch and it disrupts your rhythm, it takes you a little bit of time to get back into that rhythm. And no, I see. My way of using nunchucks is I hold one in one hand and I just hold it next to my side. That way when he comes in, I can just move and smack him with it, and I let it drop back down to center again. I don't have to worry about how fast I can get it out from behind me. Well, Sensei, all you have to do is be fast enough that doesn't happen. No. See, we're right back to the lottery. Sensei doesn't gamble, especially with my life and the well-being and future of my family. I'm not doing that, okay? Because I am not a fighter mentality. Okay? I am a survivalist mentality. Okay? I'll go looking for shit. I will avoid things and neutralize it non-violently to the greatest degree possible. But if I have no choice, well, then I'm going to end this as quickly as possible, which is a big part of this Mod 3 Dominate and Win program that we just opened the doors on. We'll put a link in the thing below. But the whole idea is we need to end this 4 moves or less, 10 seconds or less, because if it lasts longer than that, the chances of losing grow exponentially, okay? Because this is not like in a ring, 2-minute rounds, 5-minute rounds, or whatever. On the street, outside of that, the average self-defense situation, whether the attacker wins or the victim wins, right, or the intended target wins, right, over in 2 to 10 seconds. The longer it lasts after that, between the glycogen stores in your muscles depleting very, very quickly, they're gone in 7 to 11 seconds, right, and then you slow down, okay, or his friend or a good Samaritan, whatever, saw things, thought you the attacker, he now has help, and that's coming in. All kinds of shit can go wrong, okay? I need this to be over so I can get the hell out, okay? I don't want the belt. I don't want the trophy. I don't want the check. I want to get home to my family and let that PTSD kind of thing, I want to let that adrenal response and all those chemicals get cleared out of my body so I can get back to life, okay? And that's just, but that's me, right? You do you, okay? So KISS rule. Number 8, use anything at hand to help with defense, okay? I'm going to write usable aids on hand. Usable aids. Use anything. Hey, I talked about tossing a coin at somebody with nunchucks, right? Same thing with a knife, okay? You learn how to flick one. Coins make awesome weapons, right? You can look like you're just fidgeting, but you're positioning it on your thumb, and learn how to pop it so it flies into his face, okay? When something hard hits his face and he didn't see it coming, that's a huge distraction. That is a huge distraction because he doesn't know if he got stung by a bee or whatever, okay? But it creates this opening that I can either get out or get in, right? Whatever. Usable aids. When we're talking about knife defense, it might be a jacket, or I might, grab something so I can wrap it around my arms. One of my favorite tactics is to kick off my shoes and slide my hands into my shoes, soles out with the palms, okay? Because now I've got this armor, okay? And with the modern shoes, with that rubberized kind of stuff that goes on, it seems like a knife should be able to go through that. But I've already demonstrated that at knife seminars where I've taken the shoe that the student was wearing, right? Don't worry about it. I got freaking hand sanitizers and all kinds of stuff, right? Slipped it on my foot, popped open my Spyderco, which I trust, right? And just hammered on it to try to stab my own palm through the shoe. That's how much I trust the techniques, okay? Stabbed through, pulled the shoe off, showed him my palm, handed him his shoe back, and said, no, the knife won't go through, okay? And that was holding it still, because when he's doing his thing, you're going to be moving, and that's going to diminish a lot of the power, okay? So usable aids, it might be objects, it might be the corner of a wall, it might be a post, right? It might be something, a broom, mop, whatever, that I can get out there and hold between he and I, so he has to go through this. It might be a chair, whatever, okay? What do I have to get out there, okay? My teacher, Hatsumi Sensei, and there's a quote that's circulating online. I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically it comes down to him saying anything, right? Anything is possible in real combat, right? The bad guy can come at you with whatever they want. So that's the difference between good guys and bad guys. Good guys tend to operate based on rules, and there's a limit to how far they'll go. Bad guys do whatever the fuck they want. Okay. And if you're not training for that, that's like we'll go back to gun things, right? When I take people out to the range, right? We're worried about where the round is going to go. We're worried about things like collateral damage, right? And the wrong person getting shot and all that kind of stuff. All those things, right? Bad guys, I don't give a shit about that. They don't care about running out of ammo, right? They'll do the spray and pray because their boss is going to buy more ammo for them, or they're going to steal, from the next guy that comes along or whatever. Okay. Different mindset. Okay. So what he said was, in combat, in real combat, anything is possible. It's not in a ring. No rules. Okay. So anything is possible, which is why we must be able to use weapons. Okay. Remember all the way back here. Okay. All the way back here. About neutralizing his advantage. Why does a criminal brandish a weapon during the commission of a crime? Gives him an advantage. Why does a victim or intended target brandish a weapon during the commission of a crime? They're not committing it, but why do they brandish it? To neutralize the advantage that the attacker thought he had. Again, this comes down to the way you think about things. The way you think about things produces your plans, dictates your training, and prepares you for hopefully the right thing. Okay? Because if our thinking is flawed, this is an Mikyo, right? If the thinking is flawed, if we're ignorant, and I don't mean stupid, I mean we don't know any better, that dictates action, that dictates consciousness, that dictates what we think we need in the way of, it's just typically called name and form, but I need that martial art, or I need those skills, or whatever, right? And it just keeps going around until we have to come face to face with a problem. And then that's when we find out that our knowledge, our tools, our belief system, or whatever was either correct and prepared us for that thing to give us the greatest advantage possible, or it was bullshit and we're going to die with all that pride because look at all I did, man. Okay, it's all cool, right? Oh, and for somebody that posted on one of the freaking videos, sorry, this lit me on fire. For somebody that posted on one of the videos, one of the lessons, this was his quote: "I get it. Students are stupid. Students are always wrong." Somebody said, it's always about being cautious to understand the problem so we can learn what we need to be able to apply the proper solution. It has nothing to do with anybody being stupid. Now, if you know better and still do whatever you want that's not in accordance with what should be done, yeah, that's stupid. Okay? I didn't call anybody stupid. I read that, and the first thing I thought was, well, there's somebody's defensive. Okay? They're circulating around the internet. Hopefully they're trying to learn something, but generally speaking, these trolls, they're just looking to shut everybody else down because they already think that they know everything. Okay? I hope I hope not, if you're listening, I hope it's whatever, not you, but that person, right? If you're listening, I hope this resonates. I hope your life is as great as you want it to be, because our lives, everyday lives, are a litmus test to how correct our belief system is, right? Our BS. BS can be translated more than just that way, right? Okay? Life is our litmus test, right? As to how correct, not only how correct your belief system is, but how correctly you apply it to produce the success, achievement, solutions, and results that you want. I know. It comes down to responsibility. It's called being a grown-up. Okay? Anyway, that being said, let's go to number 9. Okay? I have two goals for you, which all this kind of stuff sums up to. No matter what technique we do, no matter what skill we apply, nothing, right? Goal number 1 of all these defenses, especially when somebody has a lethal weapon coming at you, goal number 1 is to shut down the controller. I hope you can see by now that this is a mindset thing. We have a specific goal in mind, and that goal dictates technique. Okay? Not, I'm just going to hit him as often as possible and like hope I shut him down. You don't need to hit him as often as possible if you go after Kyusho. If you go after weak points, right? What's the controller? The controller is his brain. I just discussed that with protecting the Kukan and all that, right? You got all this stuff feeding the brain, impulses coming from the brain and whatnot. If you shut down the controller, I don't mean you have to kill the person. If you render them unconscious, or you create a situation where they're dizzy and they can't locate you in space, their body systems aren't working the way they need them to work, right? He can't get at you. Okay? The primary goal with my shots is to get inside his defenses as quickly as possible, right? Flanking, whatever. We've got 4 different modes that we teach for how to go about doing that. So if one doesn't work, we can do another one, right? Which is, again, why this Dominate and Win program is coming out, because if I stay on the defensive against a knife, eventually, or somebody who's really just going to blast in and get me, eventually he's going to get me, because the human body can't back up nearly as fast as it can move forward. So staying in defensive mode for too long, you're going to get overrun, right? But if we have another option where we can intercept him and get him before he gets that shot off, right? That's very, very different, okay? But that mode might be the wrong one, because if I pop him first or I shoot him first or whatever, and that's mistranslated or I was wrong. See, so there's some situations and context where I need to stretch him out, break his strength, that kind of thing. I need to use long distance defensive angling. I need to use defensive response because of legality, liability, keeping myself out of jail so I don't get ass raped by 10 guys in the shower room, whatever. I know how crude that sounds, but people don't think big enough. They think about winning a fight. They don't think about the repercussions if you lose against the law, right? So again, priorities, right? So we need to have strategic flexibility, right? But primary goal is to shut down the controller. If I shut this down, I shut down the whole system, okay? Goal number 2 is, if I can't do goal number 1, then I shut down body parts that he needs to get at me, okay? If I break some bones in the back of his hand, he can't hold the knife, he's going to drop the knife. If I crack something in the leg and he can't maneuver well, then he can't get at me, right? Create the Black Knight from the Monty Python movie, right? Come back here, I'll bite your knees off, right? So primary goal number 1 is shut down the controller, because it stops these things from getting at you. If I can't shut down the controller, then I want to shut down the body parts, right? Know what they are. Again, Friday's class, we're going to go into some of those things, but I want to shut him down so that he can't get at me and I have that opportunity to get away, right? If I injure his legs and he can't run as fast, no matter what my build is, I just have to be able to run faster than him, okay? And so if he's hopping along and trying to chase after me with a broken foot, twisted ankle, you know, shattered kneecap, whatever, well, okay, he can hop as fast as he wants, but the fat boy's getting away. Okay. Anyway, all right. So again, think about this stuff strategically and tactically. All right. And then we have time. So let's do the bonus. Okay. The bonus lesson is, and I just started talking about this, stop thinking about defense. All right. Stop thinking defense. Is it not defense then? No, it's defense. But here's what happens, right? People think about defense or defending, right? It's not fighting either, okay? Well, you're fighting for your life. Okay, we can split hairs about this all day long, but a fighter is fighting somebody, there's conflict or whatever, because they're trying to win something. They're trying to, both in a fight, both people are trying to win the same prize. I don't care if it's the guys in the ring trying to win the belt or the trophy or the check. I don't care if it's the husband and wife fighting over who gets the kids in a divorce. I don't care. The combatants are fighting for the same prize. Okay? Even in a war, both sides are fighting for the same ground. Okay? Who gets to impose their ideology in this space? Okay? In a survival situation, in a self-defense situation, at least one of those people didn't choose to be there. Okay? So this is survival. Okay? So stop thinking about defense. Okay? Now, there is a self-defense doctrine in most jurisdictions around the world. You just need to do the research in your space, whether if you're in the US, look it up for your state. If you're in Canada, your province, right? Whatever, however that breakdown works for you, you might need to look at a national level if you have that kind of thing or whatever, right? But generally speaking, not a lawyer, not giving legal advice, but generally speaking, right? The self-defense doctrine is executing or applying the minimum force necessary to effect your escape, to protect yourself or others, okay? So, but see, people get hung up on minimum and they get hung up on defense. Again, I can't speak for where you live, but most jurisdictions in the US have this same kind of thing. Might be worded a little bit differently, but it's the same kind of thing. And that is, if it is an aggravated assault or attempted murder kind of thing, right? And you can assume that because he's coming at you with a lethal weapon. All weapons are capable of lethality, right? I can take a freaking charging block, these little square cube kind of things that you plug your USB cord into, right? You shove it down somebody's throat. Now it's a lethal weapon, okay? If that's what I intended to do. But either way, right? Generally speaking, somebody comes at me with a knife, gun, whatever, okay? Again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you that where I live and in most jurisdictions that involve this kind of legality, right? Because he's armed with a lethal weapon, it gives you justification to apply lethal force yourself. You need to stop thinking about defense and you need to start thinking about, you can use whatever words you want, but all of this gets summed up in, right? Stop thinking about passive response and start thinking in terms of what is my goal? Well, my goal is to get out. Yeah, I get that. We already tried that. As soon as any one of these things works, I'm getting the hell out. But what will get me out faster? Okay? You only have enough glycogen in your muscles for a quick burst that lasts about 7 to 11 seconds. Okay, 7 to 11 seconds. Even in fights, watch sport fights. These guys will slug it out and then they'll start adjusting and whatnot, and then they'll go at it again. Okay, watch the timing. Watch the timing. They're quick burst and then they go into maneuvering mode, right? Why do they go into maneuvering mode? Because the body, whether they know it scientifically or not, the body needs time to put the glycogen back in the muscles. And then they can do another, right? For runners, it's called wind sprints, where you're jogging along and all of a sudden, bow, you just go as fast and as hard as you can, and you'll go for about 7 to 11 seconds, and then you got to go back to pacing. And then your body puts that back in, you can feel it, and then boom, you can go, right? Because you don't operate when the glycogen, which is a type of sugar, is in your muscles for quick burst. It's for the fight or flight mechanism, okay? But if you don't outrun that saber-toothed tiger within 7 to 11 seconds, well, it's a rule of nature, okay? So yes, we're defending ourselves. Yes, you can call it self-defense or whatever, but the primary needs to be, I need to do one of these two things in as few moves as possible and as quickly as possible. Again, those of you who are jumping onto the Mod 3 program, the Dominate and Win program, this is a core premise. 4 moves or less, 10 seconds or less, this thing is done, so I can get the hell out of there, okay? Because we need to stay inside that average self-defense kind of thing, right? Again, not an MMA fight, not a boxing match, not 2-minute rounds, not 5-minute rounds. Jesus Christ, in a survival situation, that's fucking forever, okay? The average self-defense situation is over in what? Pop quiz, 2 to 10 seconds. So when somebody posts something under my friggin' videos about how I couldn't last in a fight, dude. Okay. Oh, and by the way, if I do have to go beyond that, okay, warriors always carry blades. Okay. I almost always have a knife on me. Often, I have a firearm on me too. Not just because I'm allowed to for those yahoos. It's my right. Screw right. Okay? He's going to brandish one regardless of law to gain any advantage. If I can't neutralize that advantage, where is it? If I can't neutralize his advantage, you better have made it right with whatever you believe in the universe, because your job is exceedingly difficult. Okay? Primary goals. Okay? These are the rules. Okay? Not just because I said so. You can look at things that generals from Sun Tzu on, martial arts masters, not just in our systems and whatnot, you pull the readings from the scrolls and whatnot, in some description or other, these are there. Okay? These are the rules for enlightened self-protection, not my way or the highway. Okay? And again, I'm going to round this out with something that one of my teachers used to open up many seminars with. And I'm going to end this the same way. What I just taught you is shit. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means it works for me. It has worked for a lot of my students, and it works for people whether they know how to describe it this way or not, right? This stuff works. But until you can take this, work it, understand it so that it becomes the way you do things, not just something you're going to try to remember when the shit hits the fan, right? Until you can make this work for you, it's worthless, right? It has the same value as shit. As a matter of fact, it has less value than shit because I can use shit as a fertilizer. Okay? So remember that with all my lessons. Okay? You're getting it for free, but never forget, until you make this work for you, it's shit. Okay? I understand that. You need to understand it, because until you recognize that it's worthless, until you make it work for you, you just spent nearly an hour avoiding work, thinking you were learning, whatever. Okay? I hope that you're not those people. Okay? That's my hope for you. Okay? Have the right motivation. So anyway, right? 10 rules. Rule number 1, if you don't have to, don't. Right? Getting cut up, you leak, you die, whatever. Okay? Somebody else calls your kids call somebody else dad, whatever. Okay? Don't put shit in there that you're not willing to give up for the rest of your life. Keep it simple. Use anything you can to protect yourself. Right? Know the difference between a sport contest, and that includes people that get into fights on the street and fight like they're in a boxing ring. It's bullshit. Okay? It's bullshit. Okay? But again, don't forget your primary goals. Shut down the controller so the machine can't work to get at you. Okay? And if you can't do that, break some things, shut down body parts, so no matter what the controller wants to do, the machine's broken. Okay? No matter how fast you want to get to grandma's house, if you have a flat or you throw a tie rod in your engine block, guess what? It doesn't matter what your intention is. What matters is that machine that you're trying to get there with, not going to get you there. Okay? So prioritize, focus, right? Understand what's important, and stay within that paradigm, right? Make him work harder. Okay? You work smarter, not harder. Make him work harder, because if he was smart enough, he would have already controlled the situation and took care of you at a distance before he got close enough. Okay? The way to mug somebody properly, ninja style, is to shoot them from across the street, walk up and take their wallet, instead of going, give me all your money, because that's fucking risky. Anyway, I'm going to stop there before I produce evidence against myself later on. All right, that's it. I will talk to everybody again soon. Hopefully you get yourself signed up for the Friday virtual training and get some of these unarmed against knife defenses. We might do some arm stuff in there too. And if you're interested, don't forget the doors are now open for the Dominate and Win Realm of the Committed Warrior program. It's a 16-week program. I'm not going to sell it. I'll put a link down below. You can jump over to onlineninjaacademy.com. I think it's /dominate-and-win. But either way, I'll put a link down. Check it out. But doors close Monday, right? Monday, June, whatever that is, right? First, second, third, June 3rd. Okay. And then for 16 weeks, I'm working with a closed group. And then after that, anybody that jumps into the program won't get most of the bonuses that are in there. They're not going to get contact with me. And it's going to be a do-it-yourself program. Okay. That's it. That's all I got. See you next time.